The top teams do what the top teams do. They find a way to keep winning games. And it begs the question, already at Christmas, have we got a guaranteed 4-horse race? This is my roundup of the Championship, starting on Friday night. Luton Town 2, Derby County 1. If you want limbs, get yourself to the Kenny. Luton have improved massively at home. All their form, all their joy is coming from Kenilworth Road. No surprise there, really. But it took a very late showing here to dispatch of Derby County. Goals in the 89th and 92nd minute won Luton the game, and it stretches their unbeaten run at home to 6 league games. They're actually 7th now in the home league table, which is really, really impressive, and it just goes to show how much they're away from has let them down. It really, really has been a huge pitfall of theirs this season. But looking at the numbers, I think they deserved the game. They edged the game overall when you look at the chances. Derby, as they often do away from home, put in a very good competitive showing, and they'll feel, I think, quite aggrieved, and it'll be a bit of a sickener that they've come away with nothing, never mind a point at least. So it's a tough one for them to take, and I think they'd have been hoping to back up that Pompey win with something here, and it means that Pompey win is now their only win in their last 8, so they need to try and put this sucker blow of a defeat behind them. It's the same for Luton. They're doing well at home, but they desperately need to improve on the road. Hull 2, Swansea 1. Hull finally put an end to their 13-game winless run. What a relief it must be. And again, looking at the numbers in this game, it looked like they deserved it. It looked like they edged the game. What I will say is Swansea's goalkeeper did not help the scenario. He was beaten at his near post by Pedro for the first, which I thought was pretty poor from him, and he gave the ball away straight to Mason Burstow for the second, although the striker still did very, very well to finish his opportunity. But I think it's what Hull deserved on the balance of play, and it's the first win under Ruben Selles. So here's hoping for him and for them they can build on it here. Swansea, it's a tough one to take. It's a very disappointing defeat, you have to say, and I think it's just a sign as to why everyone, including me, have just got them as a mid-table team. Too inconsistent, and they can't be losing games like this. Portsmouth 4, Coventry 1. I've got to be honest, I didn't see this coming. I didn't see 4 goals coming, never mind from the same player. Callum Lang with 4 goals for Pompey here, and it was quite a worrying collapse from Coventry City, who got off to the perfect start, scoring after the first 3 minutes away at Fratton Park. You think, well, you couldn't set yourself up really any better. But Pompey's reaction was absolutely fantastic, and the match momentum from that moment on was just sheer dominance from Portsmouth. I can't recall how late in the second half it was until Coventry had another shot. It was, a really, really poor reaction to Pompey getting back into the game from Coventry. They sort of just sunk. It was a worrying sign to see them fold and go under so easily here, but Pompey deserve immense credit for their reaction, and they've done what they needed to do. They've put that heavy defeat at Derby behind them as quickly as possible. And the one thing they're doing, and they've still done despite that Derby defeat, is they've made Fratton Park a little bit of a fortress of late. They're unbeaten in the last 4 home games, winning 3. That's the platform that a team who need to stay up have to start building upon. We saw it earlier in the season with Derby and Oxford doing that. Strong home form is crucial, and Pompey are starting to do that now. Coventry, it's still too early to say really, how they're sort of going to go. It sums them up really that in Lampard's first 4, they've won 2, lost 2. It sums up the up and down season that Coventry have had. So I don't think you can read too much into the results at this point, but the way they collapsed here away to Pompey is still a major concern. Sheffield Wednesday 2, Stoke City 0. Stoke will feel, I think, a little bit, or actually massively aggrieved with some of the decisions in this game. I mean, I looked at it at first and thought, wow, that's a shocker from Stoke. They go a man up in the first half after Bernard is sent off for 2 really stupid yellow cards. But 10-man Sheffield Wednesday were still able to then score 2 past Stoke, which, let's be fair, is still massively disappointing from a Stoke point of view. Getting beaten 2-0 by a team who had 1 less man than you is not good, no matter how you dress it up. But there were some decisions in this game which Stoke will feel desperately unlucky with, the Barry Bannon handball. I'll never know in a month of Sundays how that wasn't given, although that was still when they were already 1-0 behind, and they did get a penalty later in the game, which they missed anyway. So you could say swings and roundabouts, but Stoke were just, you can't really, as I say, you can't dress up them losing 2-0 from the position they were in. They did create more chances. They did have the higher XG here. Sheffield Wednesday were just clinical, taking the majority of the chances that they did get. And it continues a very solid run of form for Sheffield Wednesday. They've now won 4 from their last 6. Stoke, it continues a terrible run. They've lost 4 of the last 5. They're winless in 8. They've got the joint longest winless run in the Championship now. And the voices and the nerves around the manager and where Stoke are at are only going to grow louder. Although there was still a degree of misfortune in this game. It's one of them for Stoke. When you're down there, your luck's out. This is what happens. But they desperately need to pick things up quickly because teams below them are picking up points. Sheffield Wednesday, though, well, they're eyeing up the playoff race. Burnley 2, Watford 1. Another case of the top sides finding a way to win. And it was the result Burnley deserved. By far the better side, the more creative side. They deserve the win here. Nothing else to really say. It continues very, very strong form from all the top sides, to be honest with you. They're all just relentless, to be honest. They don't lose games and they don't drop points at home as well. And that is the case for Burnley. Unbeaten in 9. They've won 6 of them games. It's just really solid, consistent form, as it has been all season. Them and Sheffield United, I could put in the same box, really. They're not eye-catching, they're not swashbuckling. But man, do they know how to get results. And they've done that again here. Nothing more to be said. Watford, listen, they were second best. Their away form still leaves a lot to be desired. It still is what I feel like is letting them down big time. But they won't be the first team to lose away to Burnley. And they won't be the last either. Cardiff 0, Sheffield United 2. The predictable Sheffield United score. They win 2-0. I feel like they do this every single week, to be honest, but exactly in the same manner as what I've just been speaking about Burnley. A potential banana skin away from home. Absolutely no problem for the Blades. They scored from 2 of their 5 shots on target. Were they massively creative here? Not really. An XG of 0.78 wasn't all that great, but as I say with these top teams, you don't have to create much when you're so good at the back. They limited Cardiff to only 2 shots on target in the whole game. Kiefer Moore took his 2 goals extremely well, and Sheffield United continue to march towards promotion. They just look so efficient, so unstoppable, unbeaten in 11. They've won 9 of 11. I just don't know what or how or who stops them at this moment in time, to be honest with you. And Cardiff, well, they're joint alongside Stoke with the current longest winless run in the league. It's a worry that they've committed to this new manager and things just haven't gotten better. They might arguably be getting worse. They're winless in 8 and have lost 5. But in the same vein as, Watford, you could say, was this a game Cardiff ever expected to win? Probably not. Is it a game that will define their season? Probably not, but they have to start picking up wins very, very quickly. Leeds 4, Oxford 0, another result which you just thought was just a given. Again, there's no surprise here in my predictions. You backed all of the top 4 to win, and they did so without any issue, and this was the most obvious of the lot. We all know Oxford's circumstances are not great at the moment. They didn't have a shot on target in this game. Leeds at home right now are on a different planet to anyone else in the Championship. Their away form still needs to improve for me. Their home form is still doing a lot of the legwork at the moment, but it's 9 straight wins in the league for Leeds now. They're so good at home in terms of clean sheets as well. A comfortable 4-0 win. They battered Oxford, 23 shots, 9 on target. It was the sort of result you'd expect. So I've got nothing else to say other than Leeds are doing what Leeds do at home. Oxford are now the joint worst team in the league on recent form. Lost 6 of the last 7. I know the Des Buckingham sacking was harsh, but Gary Rowett might be the right man to steady the ship. If they were to bring anyone in, they got to get him in and they got to get him to work quickly because Oxford need to turn this form around very, very quickly. Millwall 1, Blackburn 0. Blackburn have lost. Unbelievable. They've dropped points. Their first drop point in 6 games and the first goal they've conceded in 5, but it did take until the 96th minute winner, or the 96th minute, for the winner to come from Millwall. But what a big moment it was, and to be honest, they deserved it. You know, Blackburn have done extremely well of late, keeping the opposition out and taking the very few chances they create. Blackburn still aren't a mass-creating side, but they've took their chances when they've come, and they've kept the opposition out. And as I've said with the top teams, when you're so good at the back, you only need one goal to win a game. Unfortunately for Blackburn today, they couldn't quite find that one goal. They only had one shot on target. And again, as I said last week, how sustainable is that to continue winning games? I'm not so sure. Millwall, with the more creative side, had the better chances. And in the end, you'd probably say, got what they deserved with a 96th minute winner. Absolutely awesome limbs. It ends a 6-game winless run for Millwall. And it's not too bad for Blackburn. You know, they've had a great run. They need to just bounce back from this as soon as they can, because they're still in a very, very good position. Plymouth 3, Boro 3. I've been through this in my Project Boro reviewing show. I spent half an hour on this bad boy, so check that out if you want to know my in-depth thoughts. But this basically showed exactly why Boro are not amongst the top 4, where we should be, really, but we're not. It's because we find ways to chuck away games like we did here. You know, we went up against a Plymouth side who were categorically the worst offensive side, the worst defensive side. They were bottom in every single metric. And although Boro still scored 3, which you'd expect to be the case, we conceded 3. And they were all exactly the same goal, time and time again. Naive defensively from Boro, really poor defensively, and also naive and poor from the coaching staff as well, to just not recognise that Plymouth were exploiting Boro's weaknesses time and time again, and we did absolutely nothing to stop them. Plymouth found a weakness, kept going at it, and got exactly what they deserved. 3 goals, and the worst thing is for Boro, this is a side who had by far the lowest XG in the league, and Boro conceded an XG of 3.56 to this Plymouth side. That is what is not good enough about this Boro performance. 2 really poor points dropped. I don't care that we come from behind 3 times. It's a game we should be winning, and it shows exactly why Boro are where they are and are now probably condemned to a scrappy playoff fight instead of being in amongst the top 4. What I will say, though, I was very impressed by Plymouth. I thought they were absolutely outstanding and did not look like a team who was scrambling down the bottom and looked hopeless when you looked at their numbers. If they battle and fight and play with the level of intensity that they did against Boro, home and away, they'll certainly give themselves a huge chance of staying up. QPR 2, Preston 1. I feel like Preston have thrown away a really big opportunity here. You know, there's two sides here who have had an upturn in form, have pulled themselves away from danger. And maybe a defeat for both isn't the worst thing in the world given where they've got themselves, but QPR have turned a corner and some. It's a great win for them, coming from behind. Wasn't helped by Lindsay getting himself sent off in the second half for Preston, and them blowing an early lead is definitely something that's going to sting. But QPR, over the balance of play, you'd have to say, deserved the win here. 17 shots, 5 on target to Preston's 2 and 2 on target. QPR's XG was far superior, and I think in the end they got what they deserved. They're unbeaten in 7 now, QPR, and have won 4 of them 7 games. An unbelievable turnaround that might see them getting into mid-table. That relegation battle, them being bottom of the league, seems like a distant memory now. What a turnaround from Marty Cifuentes. It's disappointing from a Preston point of view, and their away form still, I think, is a bit of an issue, but I still think they'll be fine under Paul Heckingbottom. Sunderland 2, Norwich 1. The quartet of the top 4 do what they do. Sunderland found a way to win as well. And albeit it wasn't as convincing as maybe the Sheffield United or Leeds victories, they do what they do at the Stadium of Light, and that's that they find a way to win. And it was actually a tight game looking at the numbers. Norwich actually edged the XG. They matched each other completely when it come to shots on target, big chances. So it was a pretty even game. But this is what the top teams do. They find a way to win. And Sunderland did that in the 72nd minute with a winner from Joe Bellingham, and it was just after a really reckless second yellow card from Norwich. And I think that's where the frustration comes from amongst Norwich fans. They just keep shooting themselves in the foot, and I think they're up there. They might even be leading the league in the most points lost from winning positions. It's really, really frustrating from a Norwich point of view. They've only won 2 of their last 13 league games and have lost 3 of their last 4. It's, a worrying run of form for Norwich. Them 2 really strong home wins where I think they scored a ridiculous number of goals is the slight glimmer in what has been a dreadful run of form for quite a long time for them now, and the playoffs might be seeming like a real push for Norwich, which is a real shame to be fair. But Sunderland, they do what they do at home. They find a way to win. They get the 3 points. They've won 3 of the last 4, so they've turned a corner and steadied the ship after they started to slip away, so credit to them for getting back on it and maintaining pace with this very good top 3. So, they find a way to win. Their home form continues to be absolutely fantastic, and if they can keep it up, they might be there for automatics at the end of the season. And finally, West Brom 2, Bristol City 0. Back-to-back home wins for West Brom, both by 2 goals to 0. They're scoring a bit more at home. They're keeping clean sheets. This is more like it from a West Brom point of view under Carlos Corberán. So, a very, very good result for them. Well deserved when you look at the numbers, and it might just be West Brom getting a bit of a second wind after what must have felt like the longest winning run in history. And if they're finding their feet and getting a second wind, then the other sides in the top 6, or at least the sides fighting for the 2 final playoff places, need to watch out, if I'm honest. Bristol City, though, do what Bristol City do. They're streaky, they'll go on a good run, they'll go on a bad run. This is exactly why they are just a mid-table side, and they do what Bristol City do every single year. 1 win in 7 for them. They're just going to be sat in the middle of the league, as they always are. Before we go, a quick look at the Championship League table then, and this is where it starts to look like a bit of a 4-horse race, doesn't it? The top 4 all right alongside one another, although Sheffield United do have a little bit of a cushion, you'd have to say. The top 4 just don't look catchable, even from Blackburn's point of view, who do have a game in hand, and if they win that, they're 3 points off Sunderland. I just look at the top 4, and I just look at how fewer games they lose. You know, Sheffield United have lost 2, Leeds 3, Burnley 2, Sunderland 3. When you don't lose many games and you're so good defensively, they'll just keep ticking along, and I don't see anyone else in this league who has anywhere near the level of consistency to keep up with them. So the fight for top 2 is going to be interesting, and I feel sorry for the other 2 playoff teams who are going to have to compete, whichever of them 2 of them 4 don't get up in the top 2, whichever 2 teams finish 3rd and 4th, you'd have to feel like would be strong favourites at this point. And then the playoff fight is pretty much from 5th down to 9th. There's a 5-team fight there, you'd have to say, for them final 2 playoff places. I still feel like Blackburn are well placed. Boro need to be very careful with our form at the moment. West Brom look like they might be gaining a bit of a second wind. I wouldn't rule out Sheffield Wednesday either at this point. You've then got the usual mid-table mediocre bunch from Millwall down to maybe Luton, you could say at this point, and maybe Derby and Coventry too. The fight for relegation still looks like it's the same bottom 5. Pompey got themselves in a great position with games in hand, I may add as well. Hull have got themselves out of it out of the blue, and Plymouth are now bottom, although their performance showed me that they have a little bit of hope. I would say it's Oxford and Cardiff who are the 2 I'm massively worried about, and maybe even Stoke as well, unless they turn things around soon. But let me know your thoughts on the Championship this weekend, your thoughts on your team as always, and let me know what you thought of the overall picture in the Championship, both at the top and at the bottom. Do you think it is a 4-horse race from here on in? And which teams do you worry for the most down at the bottom? But that's it for today. If you've enjoyed the video, smash a like button as always. Subscribe. We do round up every single round of Championship games here on the channel and predict the rounds as and when we can. And I'll try and get as many roundups done over the Christmas period. But as I say, Boxing Day, the 29th, New Year's Day, I'll try my very best to squeeze in the roundups as and when I can, but it's going to be a hell of a busy period, so I'll be interested to see where the Championship ends up and how it looks when we head into the new year. Should be very, very exciting as always. But until next time, guys, do take care. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.